We have so much to cover today that I will not waste any time as I normally do. A lot of time wasting normally on this program, but not today. So we have Trump events and Biden-Harris events to talk about. We'll start with Trump. Donald Trump yesterday very suddenly scheduling a press briefing right at the time that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were having their first joint event, which I will cover momentarily. Donald Trump sounding very much the same yesterday as in previous press briefings, not only repeating some of the same things he said previously, but even repeating the same stuff 2, 3, even 4 times during yesterday's press briefing, which was weird. It actually went so poorly that Fox News even cut away from it to instead discuss the Biden-Harris event, if you can believe that. But we will get to that. And it does seem like Donald Trump was motivated yesterday in this late scheduled event, at least partially by trying to take attention away from the Biden-Harris event, which got much more attention and much larger viewership. It was bad from the start. Donald Trump sounded particularly slowed down, sort of that somnambulant Trump, sleepwalking, sleep-talking, lowest energy that I've seen from him. Take a look.
Here. And good evening. As we continue to confront the China virus, we're rebuilding America's economy like nobody thought possible, actually. We're doing incredibly well. Stock market's up almost 300 points again today. While our economy is performing significantly better than Europe, which people have to understand very strongly, it's performing better than any market anywhere in the world, actually. At the same time, Europe has experienced a 40% higher excess mortality than the United States.
So that's what I call casual, xenophobic, somnambulant Trump. You'll notice that everything now is percentages relative to the second quarter. If you watch this program, I warned you about this after historic declines and horrible numbers in second quarter. We expected that now we would start hearing about relative to the second quarter. This has grown so much. That has grown so much. You're all now briefed on that because I've been talking about it and warning you about it for months. So I don't think I need to spend too much time on that. Donald Trump still pushing this idea yesterday that the election will be a fraud and even mixing it here with Obamagate. Obamagate, of course, is this greatest crime in history that Trump has claimed Barack Obama committed. We never actually find out which laws were broken, what is the treason you claim is there, but it doesn't matter. It's all being wrapped up now.
The greatest fraud ever perpetrated, other than perhaps what they did to my campaign, where they spied on my campaign, President Obama, Biden, and everybody else. And they got caught. Let's see what happens. This will be one of the greatest frauds in history. So they're admitting that they want $3.5 billion, and they're not going to do a deal that's good for the American people.
Sadly, this is working, and that's why I think we need to keep talking about this. Yes, fraud, all right, whatever, it's Trump again. But it actually has convinced 2/3 of Republicans, 65% to be more precise, that the election may not be fair in November. This is a strategy, and we talked about it yesterday. Trump's fixated on it for a reason, and it's because it's good for him to continue harping on the election is not going to be fair, the election is going to be rigged, the election is going to be a fraud. Now, Trump eventually took questions, and he did take more questions than the previous day when I think he took 5 mostly friendly questions and then sort of skulked off the stage. Trump did take questions yesterday. He got a good question about the coronavirus death toll. Donald Trump keeps talking about how cases don't tell us much because cases are merely an artifact of testing. And because we test so much, as Trump says, cases don't really tell us how we compare to other countries. Reporter astutely says, well, but our death toll is a nightmare in absolute terms and in per capita terms. And Trump just deflects and insists on talking about cases instead.
Mr. President, I'm
Sure, go ahead. One is about, you had graphs about the economics of COVID, but deaths in America are still going up, whereas in Europe, right now, 0 deaths in UK, 0 deaths in France.
What's going up by cases, if you look at cases, and the cases are going up because we do so much testing and we find it, and I call it fake media gold. because we do so much more testing than any other country. And when you do all that testing, you find cases. Go ahead, Steve, real fast.
So later, I'm going to be covering the Biden-Harris event from yesterday. And you will no doubt notice that the Biden-Harris event was on topic and coherent and substantive. Whereas with Donald Trump, it's deflection and non-answers and redirections. And this actually at one point got really interesting because Fox News reporter John Roberts asked the key question about Trump's idea for cutting the payroll tax, which he's been floating recently. You probably know if you watched I guess it was the Monday, Tuesday show, that the payroll tax funds Social Security. So if you permanently cut the payroll tax, like Trump claims he wants to do, you immediately have a funding issue for Social Security, a funding issue that you create nonetheless. Donald Trump, not shockingly, when asked about this, is completely incoherent.
If you permanently rescind the payroll tax, how do you pay for Social Security?
We're taking it out of the general fund, and what we'll do, what we'll be doing is, if we do that, we'll get it approved, in that case by Congress, and we'll take the money from other places other than, we will not take it from Social Security in any way, shape, or form.
How do you fund it from the general fund when the general fund just incurred a debt of $2.8 trillion?
You're right, but we're going to have tremendous growth. We have tremendous growth. You take a look at what's happening here. Next year, unless somebody comes in who doesn't know what they're doing and they start raising taxes and forcing everybody to leave the country or leave their jobs and companies to close, we will have tremendous growth. You will see growth like you haven't seen in a long time. Okay.
This one he's actually been claiming since being a candidate. Anytime Trump has a policy that makes no sense from the standpoint of arithmetic, Trump says it might seem like it removes money and causes a financial shortfall, but it doesn't, because it's going to be so stimulative that all of this new growth will show up and the government is going to take in more money. It's simply not happened. I mean, the concept of it is the concept of demand side stimulus. If you make the right moves from a financial standpoint in the economy, you generate growth, which creates new government revenue. It didn't happen with Trump's tax cuts. It certainly wouldn't happen when you cutting the payroll tax, which funds Social Security, will not generate growth such that then you get even more money from Social Security elsewhere. This is a shadow campaign, if it were to succeed, to hurt Social Security, despite claims that it's Biden who will hurt Social Security. If Trump were able to permanently cut the payroll tax, that would really damage Social Security. I talked about it in detail. Again, it was Monday or Tuesday, so I won't do the full analysis again. Then we get into some so-called fun stuff, if the term can really apply to horror show press briefings. Take a look at this.
Feeling that on November 4th, somebody's going to announce schools are open. The country's open. Everything's open. I really believe a lot of it's done for political reasons, if you want to know the truth. I think so. But you're right. Online is not the same as being in the classroom.
He really seems to think that the entire coronavirus response in the United States is about him and him alone. No one is going to say on November 4th, if the news on November 4th is Biden defeated Trump, no one is going to say, open up all the schools because it was safe all along. The only way November 4th will see schools opened is if on November 3rd, cases go down 95%. The idea that this is all about Trump is just part of his narcissism, part of his delusions of grandeur, and it's a complete and total fantasy. Compared with Ebola, where 2 people died in 2014, the day of the midterms in November of 2014, Ebola criticisms of Obama stopped. You can even look at Trump's own tweets leading, even in October of 2014, Trump was hammering Obama on Ebola, where 2 people died. And after the midterms, you never heard about it again, essentially. This was yesterday maybe the most slowed down Trump that we've ever seen. Check out these pauses. And of course, even without the pauses, what Trump is saying here would make no sense.
So when you sit at home in a basement looking at a computer, your brain starts to wither away. We have a lot of good experience at that just by taking a look at what's happening in politics. Studies estimate that school closures last spring caused the average student to fall 50% behind in math and roughly 35%.
I mean, just disjointed, incoherent. And then the wild and wacky, Trump falling apart, refers to doctors as doxers, which is something else altogether, of course, and really continuing to struggle to speak.
The doxers also warned about the risk of increased abuse.
Then Trump completely unable to say fatalities. Multiple times he says fatilities. And again, he has this look on his face where it's almost like one part of his brain realizes that the other part is saying something that doesn't make sense. It's like when he said, we need to know the oranges, the citrus fruit, the oranges of the investigation. He had a look like he knew there was a malfunction, couldn't get control of it. Very, very similar here with fatalities.
It's 99.995% of all fatalities are adults. Think of that, 99.95. That is extremely close to 100% of all fatalities are adults. Children.
Look at, Yosemite's plasma fatalities just over the last week. Come on, guys. This isn't normal. Something is wrong here. And then the last thing before I talk about how Fox News handled this briefing, Trump quickly called on the right-wing propaganda network OAN. The question was a complete non sequitur about some Antifa website redirecting to Joe Biden's website. It was just a setup for Trump to link Biden and Antifa when there is no such link. I'm not even going to play the question for you. I don't want to give OAN any airtime. But right after OAN said, what about this Antifa website that redirects to Joe Biden's website? Fox News put up on a lower third graphic, Trump says Biden should denounce Antifa. And this is how propaganda is generated. There is no Antifa Biden story at all. OAN creates such a discussion by asking a ridiculous question, and next thing you know, Fox News has a quote up on the screen about what Trump says Biden should do about Antifa. Last thing, this is really interesting. Even Fox News had to cut away when Donald Trump started ranting about Bill de Blasio and dog whistles about violence in Chicago and the like. Fox cut away and said, watch the rest on our website if you want.
It's not even believable what's happening in Chicago, where one weekend you had 78 people shot and 18 die in a weekend. And then successive weekends, you have so much of that happening, and it's really not even believable. And if you let Democrats run this country, and we've stopped it from going other places, if you let Democrats run this country, you'll have all of your cities be just like that.
Thank you, Mr. President. The heads of the Boston and Dallas.
Good evening. Welcome to Washington. I'm Brett Baer. President Trump holding his daily briefing there. We have it streaming on foxnews.com. You can see the rest of it. He started by talking about the success of the stock market in recent days, what he calls a V-shaped recovery from the coronavirus shutdown. The president also promising that checks.
So Fox News saying, no more for us. And then very last thing, I've said during my live streams of these events that Donald Trump repeats a lot of the same things. He's been repeating verbatim the same talking points on the virus since April or May. It's almost like we haven't had months in between and 160,000 deaths. The recount put this together, and it is actually literally verbatim true that Trump is just repeating the same stuff.
The United States has now conducted more than 66 million tests. That's far more than any country in the world. India, America has the largest at-risk population, 1.5 million residents of nursing homes, about five times that of other European countries. We're on track to rapidly produce 100 million doses as soon as the vaccine is approved. And we've delivered over 1,800 rapid point-of-care testing devices to nursing homes.
So this is all very weird, and we had a contrast yesterday of the alternative, which was a Biden-Harris event, their first event together, which is what I want to talk about next. If you are anything like me, you probably aren't thrilled with the idea of going into a doctor's office right now. And thankfully, there's a practical and affordable way to take control of your health and get personalized care from the comfort of your home. It's a service called SteadyMD. They're one of our sponsors. You take a quiz, you get matched with a licensed primary care physician who understands your health needs. You have a 1-hour video call with your new doctor. You establish a meaningful relationship with them. And after that, your doctor is available to you anytime by text, phone, or video chat. This is not a random doctor on call. Each doctor at SteadyMD has a limited number of patients, so they actually have time to listen to you. You get the personal attention that you deserve. They can do almost everything an in-person doctor can do: perform medical evaluations, talk to you about health concerns, send prescriptions to your home or local pharmacy, and anything they can't do online, they'll quickly set you up with an in-person provider to do, things like blood tests as an example. You don't need insurance. It's only $99 a month with no other fees or copays. There are so many practical advantages to using SteadyMD for primary care, and it's also so much more affordable. Go to steadymd.com/Pakman to take the free quiz, see which doctor is right for you. I took their quiz. They matched me with a doctor who specializes in my particular health needs and situation. The doctor they gave me is a really perfect fit for me and my medical needs. There's no risk, no commitment to get started. Just click the link right underneath this video.